Welcome to Inspiring Stories with Hanson Surge. Discover the journeys, challenges and triumphs of some rising professional stars in London and around the world. Looking for some inspiration to revitalise your career? Tune in.
Hi, my name is Alice Weightman. I'm the CEO of Hanson Search and The Work Crowd. I'm here today with Debbie Ellison, Head of Digital at Geometry Global and the winner of Women of Tomorrow Awards 2016. She's here to share some of her stories and offer advice to women entering into the advertising and digital world. So Debbie, nice to see you.
Hi, lovely to meet you.
And it'd be great to hear about winning the award and really, I guess, what it means to you to win Women of Tomorrow.
I think, first off, it means a lot. I was actually brought to tears in the award.
Oh.
It was totally unexpected. And it's always nice winning awards. It's always nice having some recognition of the hard work that you do, of maybe sharing of the beliefs that you hold, and to really be upheld as somebody that could be inspiring to other women. So it meant a lot to me to win that award. And yes,
yeah.
really great.
Yeah. Well, I was one of the judges and read all 200 plus entries, and I mean, they were all amazing. So to be shortlisted was an incredible achievement, and then also to go on and win with those other women is fantastic. And I think what really sort of stood out was both your very successful career that you've had, but also some of the fantastic things that you do outside of work, inspiring other people and initiatives internally to get people into the industry. Can you tell me a little bit more about those?
Of course. I think when you win awards like this, or when you have accolades, or when you're interviewed, it gives you a moment to really reflect on your path to where you are today. And I've been doing that quite a lot over the last couple of years. And I'm sure that the way that I've been raised, the opportunities that have been afforded to me, has really shaped and influenced kind of where I am today. And I'm really keen to ensure that those opportunities are afforded to the next generation of people that want to enter our industry. And in doing that, I go to schools within predominantly inner city areas to help inspire them, to talk to them about what I do, to talk to them about the path that I've chosen, and also offer work placements within the agency to get them to really get a feel for what it's like to be in an agency. And that I'm really passionate about, offering those opportunities to people, to young people that wouldn't necessarily have those opportunities afforded to them, is something that I really care about.
Great. And what do you think are the barriers that are preventing women, specifically, getting into the industry?
Actually, I am not entirely sure that there are barriers to get into the industry. Where I find that there are challenges is when we as women start having children, and that plays havoc on a work-life balance, and the guilt that we place upon ourselves to be the best mother, the best wife, the best at work, has I've witnessed has really pulled some of really fantastic women in our business apart. Women who you'd never expect to be impacted in that way. And I think we all have to be kind to each other and recognise that, and support each other in saying it's okay to focus on your children or to focus on work and to flex between that, but to be perfection across all the various pillars of one's life is too difficult. And I'm conscious that I place that expectation upon myself, and I can see that others place that expectation on themselves, and we really have to get better at accepting that and dealing with
Yes,
that.
yeah. And do you think it's the industry that puts those pressure, or do you think it's us as women that are putting those pressures on ourselves?
I think it's both, actually. So especially in the advertising industry, pitch work could mean that you're working 24 hours a day, round the clock, 7 days. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to run a home life and to perform at that capacity in the industry. I also think women, because, and I hate to generalise,
yes,
but you know, I can only share my opinion, my experience. We are wanting to be perfection, and we have high expectations of ourselves before we move a foot forward. And so, those two things, I think, those two influences are impacting, I think, moving forward in the industry, and we have to do something about it.
Yeah, and as a working mum of two, what practical tips do you think you could give other people who are perhaps thinking about having a family and wanting to maintain their career? Are there any practical tips you could help to get that work-life balance?
I think if you have a partner, be open and honest about what you both want to achieve and how you're going to achieve that. Find a place, find an employer that is sensitive to everybody's wants and needs, not just women, actually. You know, the best employers will recognise that individuals have responsibilities and interests and passions outside of the office, and that's really important to support. So look for an employer that recognises that supports that, and a culture that promotes that.
Good, yeah, absolutely. I think there are businesses out there that do, and if you're not in the right home, then find one that is. If you can't change it, I mean, always it's best to try and change, but if you can't, then find somewhere that you can.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think you're right. You can't be perfect at everything. I mean, you do have a family, things do change, so you have to adapt. But normally people at that stage have got experience behind them and they're better at their job, and it's worth making those, adopting what you're doing to fit, rather than exploding.
Absolutely. It could again be my own personal experience, but as men in the industry take more family responsibility too, it becomes more acceptable for everybody to share the load, and therefore you don't actually have the push me pull me of the male female in the workplace. I hope as much as it was a few years ago, that actually if you want to attend your son's assembly first thing in the morning, whether you're a man or a woman, you should be able to do that. And I think as we have allowed that as a society, it enables all of us to feel a lot better about juggling kind of a work-life balance.
Yeah, I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. I'm a great believer that it's not just tackling on from the female side. Absolutely. It is enabling men to be able to put their hand up and say, can I take the children to school or can I pick up? And until actually there's equality on that, it's very, very hard to have equality across both men and women. And I've had a number of interviews with men recently who've said they find it really hard, harder than women, to ask for flexibility and to be able to ask to pick up the children, because sometimes the response is, well, can't your wife do it? And so if we crack that, I think it really will open things up.
Really, absolutely, I really believe that, and we ourselves as women have to take responsibility for helping making that happen. We in senior roles for both our male and female employees have to promote that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So who has been an inspiration in your life? I mean, you've had an amazing career, as I said, and someone's obviously inspired you and given you this energy and drive to keep going. Who's that been? Can you identify a person, or is it a number?
I would say the strongest influence on my life absolutely has to be my mother. She came over from the Philippines, I think, when she was about 20 years old, went straight into training to be a nurse and went into the NHS. But she's always had a very determined, can-do attitude. She never takes no for an answer. I know she raised the both of us whilst working, 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. And I never felt when growing up that she wasn't around. She is formidable. She she doesn't respond to negativity. She doesn't entertain it. And I think I've taken a lot of that on, actually. I really do.
Yeah.
And I always say to my friends and colleagues, if you think I'm a formidable lady, then you should meet my mum.
It's brilliant. I think it's wonderful, and you are inspired by your mum, and actually, as a working mum, you hope that you then do the same to your children.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
And that's really interesting, actually. It's funny that you mentioned that. Round about the time of the awards, my daughter, who's at university studying history, actually called me a few days before and said, "Mum, I want to leave university. Most of the students on my course are male. They're questioning kind of why I'm on the course. They're questioning how I know so much about the topic." And it was really shocking for me to hear such a confident young woman really have doubts set in her. So when I was asked at the interview before the awards, should we have awards like this? My immediate response was, no, we shouldn't. There should be equality. We shouldn't have to promote female role models. And then I thought that was a really coincidental, stark reminder that we're not yet there yet.
Yeah.
And that female role models are still needed by society. But I'm really hoping that that's not the case in the very near future.
Yeah. No, I hope so. I hope this isn't a conversation that we would have to have in 5 or 10 years. But I'm an optimist on it all. So. And what do you think the advertising industry needs to do to remove this, barrier for women at the top? I mean, and the IPA set out wanting greater diversity in senior roles to increase to 40% by 2020. What steps do you think the industry needs to take?
That's a really difficult one. I of course believe that people should be in their seat for merit reasons. I do think that we as senior women should be demanding more, should be asking, why not me? Why am I not sitting at that table too? And I think until we have the confidence to do that, until we stop waiting for somebody to open the door for us, we won't change that percentage. So I'm not sure the industry can do so much about it, but I think we have a duty to create the environment and to ask ourselves why not us?
Yeah.
And to make that happen.
So the onus is on the women, really, to stand up, have the confidence.
And to hold people to account.
Yes.
To have confidence in your ability, to be clear in the value that you bring, and absolutely to sit at the table, put your hand up and say, why am I not there? Why am I not contributing?
Yes, yeah. And just lastly, any career advice and tips about getting into the industry for those people who are thinking they would love to get into the advertising or creative world?
My big tip is to network, is to look for a connection with people wherever you go. Of course, within the industry. I think that's super important. Show that you're keen. Do your research, but I think inherently sometimes we as women are not very good at networking and keeping in touch and showing keenness. And I think all the people I hire, regardless of gender, I want to see that. I want to see keenness. I want to see proactiveness. I want to see passion. And I think if you encompass all those characteristics, there would be no problem getting into the industry.
Great. That's really useful advice, Debbie. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
My pleasure.
I'm sure there's lots of women out there that are going to be really inspired, but also learn how to get into the industry and what to do. So thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That was Debbie Ellison in conversation with Alice Weightman for the Inspiring Stories podcast. If you'd like to be on the show, contact us on our website at www.hansonsearch.com. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter for the latest news and stories @HansonSearch.